Look, all I ask is that neither of us say anything that's going to get us sued by a Hall of Fame quarterback.
I can't make any promises.
Okay.
I say a lot of stupid stuff, especially when I get worked up about wrestling.
All right, cool. Well,
But I mean, there haven't really been Hall of Fame quarterbacks messing with wrestling, like
no.
tight ends maybe,
Yeah.
or defensive linemen.
True. True. Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. Yeah, or punters.
They're not really football players.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully we don't get sued by him now. Welcome back to Kris and Matt's Wrestling Pod 2.0. I'm Kris, that's Matt, and we're back on a Wednesday for the last time, question mark. We'll have an announcement towards the end of the show about some changes coming to the show. But
Oh, look at you with the teaser.
Hey,
Make them stick all the way through. I get it.
exactly. Gotta get those watch hours up, bro.
Yeah, so we can get boner pill ads on this thing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
What also would help with that if you subscribe to the channel and hit the like button on the video, and then over on your audio podcast feed, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever else, go ahead and subscribe to us there and leave a thumbs up or a 5-star rating there. That's what you do there, 5 stars and a review. And that's under the Kris and Matt's Wrestling Pod feed. The videos obviously are on musicandmoonsaults.com. I think that's everything. How are you, Matt?
I'm surprisingly doing well.
It's
been a long couple of weeks around the house.
Yeah. It's a beautiful day.
It's gorgeous out. The Lions are apparently got the second or third best odds in the NFC to go to the Super Bowl next year. Like, things are looking up.
Saw my first mock draft today. Well, not my first one, but the first one since the season ended. So,
hey, it's all good things for the Lions. Fingers crossed.
Took the boy to the park today to play. It was so nice out. Like, it's the middle of February. What are we doing?
You know what? I'll take it. It's much better than the middle of February where you can't leave the house and kids are home from school for 3 days because of snow. So
yeah, that's true. All right. Well, we've got a few things to talk about this week. I wanted to start. So last week, obviously, we talked a lot about AEW and kind of went through all the different title pictures and stuff. And I think you and I both were on the side that going into last week's Dynamite that we didn't think there was really a good chance that the Acclaimed were going to drop the titles to the Guns. Well, Tony Khan had other plans.
Swerve, bro.
Yeah. The Guns are your new AEW Tag Team Champions. Yeah. I don't know how I feel about it.
Shockingly, I think you're going to be more fired up about it than I am.
Like, I'm not angry. Like, I get it. Like, especially
sure.
if all signs are pointing to FTR coming back. Dax has been saying some stuff about, I kind of miss wrestling. And there was another quote I saw earlier this week. It's like, well, if Tony wants us to come back before April, we'll come back. So I think all signs are pointing to them coming back, and the Guns being kind of a traditional champions here. But that being,
did you mean transitional?
That's what I said.
I think you said traditional.
Oh,
that's what I heard.
Oh, traditional, transitional, whatever.
I mean, depending on who's booking, that is a traditional champion. So
that's true. Good point. So I'm not like angry, but I think it's a larger symptom of a larger issue. I think that low key has kind of been happening in AEW, and I kind of wanted to get your thoughts on it as well. I think we talked about all the talent in the tag division that they have. It's unmatched. But I really think that since All Out 2021, that was the one you went to, right? Yes.
Yes.
The cage match with the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks that ended the Young Bucks' first reign as champions, I really think the booking of the titles hasn't been really that great. Because Lucha, starting from there, Lucha Bros won. I really don't remember any kind of real feud they had after that.
I mean, they had a little bit with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus,
right?
Right.
I know that's who they ended up dropping the titles to, but as far as like anything in between, like,
no, that's what I mean. Is like they had a little something, but there was no major feud. Which coming off of beating the Young Bucks, you would have thought that would have meant that they had something in the pipeline, so to speak, to give those guys even more momentum.
Mm-hmm.
And it just bounced, like it just didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't capitalize on that momentum.
Yeah, and since then we've had a series of shorter range, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but there hasn't been any substance to them. It doesn't feel like even, I'll just go through Lucha, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Again, I don't really recall any major feuds they had as champions, unless you can think of anything. And then they dropped the titles to the Young Bucks fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And then the Young Bucks, there was I think it was mostly fan speculation that we were leading to another. They had a second match with FTR, and everyone thought that once they won the titles, it was going to lead to a third one. But then they ended up dropping the titles to Swerve and Keith Lee, and then we do the Acclaimed match at All Out this past year, and put the belts on the Acclaimed at Arthur Ashe, and then the Acclaimed got stuck feuding with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and the Gun Club. And then they're right back into it with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal tonight on Dynamite.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it last week. It's I'll let you finish.
No, I was just gonna say, it's kind of it's half a I love me some Jeff Jarrett, but this is ridiculous. For your tag team champions, or your now your former tag team champions, your biggest babyface tag team champions on the roster, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, I think that the tag titles in general have been symptomatic or a microcosm, if you will, of Tony Khan's booking since the start of AEW, in that he's not afraid to pivot away from something when it's not working, which is a great thing. But pivoting to something else that isn't fleshed out or doesn't have a solid foundation doesn't fix the problem. And I feel like they got the belts off of the Bucks, gave them to the Lucha Bros, and for whatever reason, they're like, okay, well, now we're going to use the tag titles to elevate Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. That didn't work. They got the belts off of them again. Okay, who's next? Well, let's throw Swerve and Keith Lee together, see if we get anything going there. And they got something going. And then I feel like they cut it off real quick. Maybe not real quick, but I don't think they should have put the belts on the Acclaimed when they did. I know the fans got on board and were really behind the Acclaimed at All Out. But if you didn't know what you were going to do after that, stay the course. The tag belts weren't going to make the Acclaimed any more popular at that point.
Right.
What was getting them over was the scissor me daddy act. And I almost wish they would have booked them the way that Enzo and Cass were booked in NXT, where they were clearly the top babyface act and you wanted them to get the titles, but they came up short a couple times. And instead of the Enzo and Cass story where they go to the main roster before they have a chance to win it, you would have been able to give the fans that moment of oh my God, the Acclaimed finally got the titles. They've been the top guys forever. Instead, they switched it real quick and they're okay. Now what?
Right.
There's no hot heel tag team for them to work with. There's no legacy feud for them that they've had besides the stuff with the Gun Club. And that's, that wasn't a dark elevation type of feud for the most part. It got some play on the main screen, but it was fourth on the list of tag importance.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't have a lot to do with the Acclaimed other than feed them with cheap heat heels, which is exactly what the Guns are and Jarrett and Lethal are. And now what? Now they got to get the belts back right away, like at the pay-per-view, or you've cut off all their momentum, just like you did to Trent and Chuck when they had their huge that big match with Santana and Ortiz. That people were like, man, they could do something, just like they did to Silver and Reynolds when they started to get some momentum, just like they did to FTR a few months ago. FTR was the hottest team in the company, and for some reason, they just never went anything further in AEW. It was all about Ring of Honor and AAA and New Japan.
Right.
And it just, that problem exists throughout the company, and it's really hurt the tag division lately.
Yeah, it's tough. Like, I think in hindsight, you're correct about holding off on putting the belts on the Acclaimed. I think how much the crowd at All Out was on their side, I think that caught them off guard. Like, I think they knew that they would be popular, but I don't think they realized that they would be that popular in that building. And then you look at it, they're both, Caster especially, I know for sure, and I think Bowens is from the area too, but they're both, New York area guys, and with the Arthur Ashe coming up, like I get, wanting to have them have that moment. But even the way that they won the titles from, they won them with, interference from Billy, and I'm like,
yeah.
And it didn't hurt them any, but it was kind of weird. And then, they ended up finishing. They had one more match, I think, with Swerve and Keith Lee. And then, from there, just like I said, it was, Jarrett and Lethal. And I mean, we got a really funny rap out of it, but other than that, I don't know if it helped them any. But you look on the heel side, there aren't that many heel tag teams that would have helped them. Because, I mean, who else is there? Like Butcher and Blade? And
right.
They're
an afterthought.
Exactly.
And that's no disrespect to them, but they've never gone up the ranks. They've been there since the start. And the only thing I remember them ever doing is that backstage match with the Young Bucks during the pandemic. And after that, what's it been?
They're just always someone's hired hitmen, and they're there, to beat up on whatever babyface, and then eventually lose. Yeah.
And I mean, you would think as much time and energy they put into House of Black, that House of Black may have got, that I think could have been a really good monster team for them to build up and maybe take the titles off of the Acclaimed. To rewind a second, I don't hate them giving the titles to the Guns, because they're an annoying heel act that people are going to boo. The problem is your tippy top guy is doing the exact same thing a million times better. And it by comparison, it's I don't think it's going to work, because the Guns are, in my opinion, are going to get the go away heat.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You want people to pay to see them get beat. You don't want them turning the channel when they come on, which is,
well, I think,
if they have a lengthy run, that's what's going to happen. Because if they don't drop the belts at the pay-per-view, I'm not sticking around to watch their segments.
So that's where I was going to go. I would be shocked if they don't drop the titles at Revolution. In fact, I would anticipate one or two things. Either there's a Casino Tag Team Battle Royal announcement here in the next couple weeks for Dynamite. Obviously, it won't be this week because they've already got their card for this week filled out. But and then the 2 weeks after, leading up to Revolution, either that or they just flat out do some sort of open challenge at the pay-per-view, and that's where FTR returns.
Yeah,
makes a surprise return, and because if they, I'm with you. If they make it out of Revolution with the belts, I think they're gonna have problems.
It'll just, I don't know that it like it'll affect the show tremendously,
No.
but like I won't tune in and they're kind of having problems with they're keeping their ratings steady throughout an episode, and if your tag champs are an act that people aren't interested in, you can guarantee that's gonna drop every time they come out, and that's no good for anybody.
Right. Yeah.
Real quick, and we don't have to spend long on this. Did you see the picture Dax tweeted out that caught some people's attention that he had to delete right away?
I did not.
He tweeted out a picture the other night, and it might have been when he sent out that I'm missing wrestling, blah, blah, blah. He had a bottle of tequila, right? And in the bottom left corner, you could see a little piece of paper. The first time he tweeted that piece of paper out, you could clearly see the WWE logo. And people were like, oh my God, they have a contract. Obviously, we don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
And that could have just been a whoopsie daisy sort of thing. But it was interesting that you're like, oh, FTR could come back, and it's the same as he accidentally tweets out a little bit of the WWE logo on clearly legal paperwork.
Right. Yeah. I mean, who knows what that could have been? Because I mean, WWE contract tamper? No.
No. I don't really think he's you're gonna laugh at me. I think there's some smoke to the fire of FTR comes back and maybe Phil mends some fences and they try to make some money off of this.
Oh yeah, because
they're just
let's see here. Tony did an interview. I don't remember who it was with, but he was talking about some of the challenges of the last year, and when he talked about Punk, he talked about him getting hurt the 2 times, but he didn't mention, didn't say it in the context of what, what happened after All Out, with the press conference. And
right.
That. So that's, that has some people's radars up that maybe,
what?
Because that's the thing. Like, it's been kind of silly. And wrestling fans, that's what we do. We like to speculate and stuff, but it's all been kind of silly to kind of speculate on what he or they were going to do with him. Cause it's not like the Bucks and Kenny who were like healthy and able to compete.
Yeah.
Like he was hurt.
They couldn't do anything with him anyway. He was sitting at home no matter what. Right.
Exactly.
And look, I'm an AEW slappy, but you can't ignore. We talked about it last week. WWE is on fire. That I think this is the most that the audience has been excited for WWE in a long time. If they can get everyone in a room and say, "Look, guys, we got to do something here. This is our best shot at recapturing our audience or bringing some more people back. Can you guys swallow your pride, work it out, and let's make some money? Let's draw some houses." It's the best option they have.
Mm-hmm.
So unless it's just a matter of I flat out refuse to work with this guy, I want all my money. I feel like for the company's sake, the best thing they can do is try to figure something out.
Oh yeah.
But who knows? I mean, that guy's a prick. It took him less than a year to ruin all the goodwill that he had built up and change his reputation. So who knows if people are going to be okay with him coming back.
Right. Well,
if at all.
Right. But on the other hand, maybe, with him being gone and kind of, he hasn't really said a whole lot himself. So he tweets pictures of his dog on Instagram. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, the whole absence makes a heart grow fonder thing. I think out of sight, out of mind, I definitely think it's more of a possibility now than it was, 4 months ago or whatever it was, 4 or 5 months ago that he
especially
coming back.
So. Especially considering for the last few weeks, we were talking about ratings, and I know ratings aren't the be all end all, but I don't know if you saw the elite segments are ratings droppers right now. People are not tuning in. If I'm those 3 guys and like I'm supposed to be a top part of the company, I can't have that. Like I got to do something to get my name back, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll just leave and go to WWE. I mean, that's what AVPs do in that company. When they can't handle it, they just check out and go over somewhere else.
It's a fine transition, Matt.
I'm professional. That's what you brought me in for.
Last 2 weeks on Raw, some great promo work featuring the Code Man. Last week was with Heyman. This week was Sami. I love how Triple H, he heard like, oh, don't put Cody and Sami in the same ring together. Oh, don't do it. And he's like, oh yeah? Watch me in Brooklyn. No problems.
And
no problems.
No problems yet, because Sami isn't out of the picture yet. So of course the fans aren't going to like they're not booing Cody yet because Sami's not out of the picture. He could win this weekend. I don't think he's going to. They could come back and say he's going to be in a triple threat at WrestleMania, and that would solve the issue. We haven't had an episode of any of these shows yet where it is very clear Sami is not going to be part of the WrestleMania plans, which is completely different from when it happened with Bryan and when Roman would get booed when he was a face and they were forcing him down people's throats. The fans haven't had that confirmation yet that, no, he's not going to be in it. So I think to say that, like, putting them in the ring and nothing happening proves that the fans are going to accept it, I think is a little bit of a stretch. I'm not saying I think the fans are going to boo Cody out of the building if Sami doesn't get it, but I think you're stretching there because as of right now, he's still got a shot at being some part of the big match.
Yeah, I guess I just, like I said, not just you, but judging from other people, people is like, oh, that was the worst thing that they could do is put these two in a ring together. And I don't know. I've maintained that I think everything's going to be fine, but we'll see. I mean, it all depends on how they execute Saturday. If they just have Sami lose and nothing else, then yeah, they might have an issue. But I don't think they're going to do that. I think there's going to be more to it than Sami just losing to Roman. But what did you think of the segment?
So I didn't think it was fine, but I don't know if it's the tribalism in wrestling fans right now, but people were acting like it was this elite top tier. It was a fine promo, but like Sami Zayn coming to Raw to look Cody in the eye to be like, did you really mean it? I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what the point of that really was. Like, Cody and Sami don't have this long history. It's not like he's turned into somebody, but like, you really believe in me, blah, blah. It's just like, you said this, I'm coming here to ask you, and then Cody comes out to babyface the world, essentially, which is fine. I mean, you don't want to make the guy look like an asshole, but
right. No, so this went in a completely different direction than I think it probably would have 6 months ago, under the same circumstances. I thought for sure that the thing that Sami needed to talk to Cody about what Cody said last week with Heyman was what we talked about last week about the very end when Cody, once Heyman got Cody all riled up and he said, I'm going to take those titles personally, basically kind of contradicting what he had said earlier about Sami having a chance
and overlooking Sami.
Yeah. And I thought for sure, okay, here's what we're going to do. And we're going to, we can't have baby faces on the same page. We gotta, always have this, dissension amongst baby faces. And it went in a completely different direction what I was expecting. Yeah. And again, I to that point, I also kind of expected Cody to kind of be like, well, yeah, you could win, but really, kind of this. And it was, I don't remember the last time that they've had a baby face as over as these two, let alone two. Like, these two are like, it's crazy right now.
Maybe
for WWE.
For WWE, but I feel like we've talked about this for weeks. But like, I'm telling you, I have a feeling if Sami doesn't get in this main event match, I think all of this overness, I think it's really gonna drop. I just don't think it's gonna. I don't think he'll be as big of a deal. But I could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. What do I know? I do like that they didn't go the way you were talking of Sami being like, you don't believe in me, blah, 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 because it doesn't put Cody in a bad situation. I mean, they could very easily unintentionally have turned Cody there by saying, you don't believe in me? Who do you think you are? You come in here. You haven't been here as long as I have. I've been with the bloodline. I know what I'm up against, blah, blah, blah. It could have started to turn some of the fans. Thankfully, they didn't make that mistake.
Yeah,
I don't like the part of Cody just being like, he's just a man. If you hit him, like we have seen lots of people much bigger than Sami go after Roman and not be successful. So to say like, if you hit a man and find out what he's worth, we're not dealing with it in the traditional sense of like, oh, you can knock a man down. Like he's God mode and he's got this gang with him. I just thought it made Cody look a little foolish to be like, if you just take him down a peg.
Well, but they also, I think they kind of explained it away a little bit, a couple minutes earlier when he said, he's been watching Roman from the distance, whereas Sami has kind of been, in the trenches with him. I think it did a lot to give even the most, I think everyone pretty much knows Sami's not going to win, but I think it did a good job of even in a kayfabe sense, giving more credibility to the fact that Sami could win, because everything Cody said there was true. For the first time, there seems to be real cracks in the bloodline, and it all happened because of Sami.
Well, see, what I worry about with that promo then is, there's the video. Yeah. That's why I wore the shirt.
Yes.
What I worry about though is that you've established that Cody thinks Sami deserves the main event, and that Sami is the reason there's cracks in the bloodline. So on Saturday, if Roman beats him straight up, there's no chance that Sami can get involved. He's blown his shot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think then turns into a possibility of fans not booing Cody as much as they're booing, why isn't Sami in this match? You could have the bloodline screw him, which I think you and I think is what's really going to happen. Jay's going to make his decision. But now you put it back on the All-American babyface to be like, whoa. Sami didn't get a fair shake at this. He deserves another shot. And if he doesn't do it, you've got the argument of like, well, Sami got screwed. He didn't get a fair opportunity. Cody himself said he deserves a chance to beat Roman Reigns, and he got hosed out of it. He deserves to be in the match at WrestleMania. He deserves a shot at one of the titles. I just feel like doing it like that, you're opening Cody up to be undermined.
I don't think so, because Cody did win the Royal Rumble. Like, he did what you're supposed to need to do to get that title shot at WrestleMania. He won the Royal Rumble. Like,
sure.
So I think if anything, and he kind of said it. He's done he's forever on the media circuit, and I can't remember which one it was that he did when they were in New York on Monday, but he said something like, if Roman beats Sami, and then if I end up beating Roman, then I'm eventually Sami and I's paths are gonna cross. So I think you could do it that way, where Cody kind of gives Sami a crack after sometime after Mania, to kind of make good. I don't know. We'll see.
I think if you're trying to protect Cody and you want Cody to be the guy coming out of WrestleMania, I'm going to keep going back to this. I don't see how you don't have Sami in that big match in some way, shape, or form. Triple threat elimination match. Sami gets knocked out in 10 minutes or whatever, but he got the match. that can shut people up. I think if in what you're just talking about, well, he gives them a crack afterwards. What if people are legitimately pissed that Sammy's not in the match, and then this big baby face that you finally have that you were just talking about is now in a baby face match against a guy that might undermine some of his popularity?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, I think, yeah, I don't want to be a broken record because I've said it every week now, but I think where they're going to add up is going to be I mean, of course, there's going to be people out there that like are hard, unless Sami Zayn is wrestling for the Universal title at WrestleMania, blah blah blah, you're not going to please those people, and half those people I don't think truly, they're just trying to stir shit up. Like, I don't think half those people actually believe what they're trying to sell. I think where they're going is going to be emotionally satisfactory enough that I think people are going to let it go. I think people are going to let things play out, and I really don't, unless they completely screw the pooch on Saturday, I don't think they're going to have any kind of issues leading into WrestleMania.
Maybe,
but
I mean, the other scenario here is they just have Roman win at WrestleMania and get this 1,000-day title reign out of the picture, which I'm not opposed to either, because this might be the last time you ever have an opportunity to do something like that.
True. Yeah. No, I don't know. It's kind of, it all depends on how much, if he wants to work another, 200, he might just want to go on a long vacation after WrestleMania. Who knows?
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Real quick. So this past weekend, the Switchblade Jay White lost a loser leaves Japan match over in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's scheduled to face Eddie Kingston at their San Jose, the Battle in the Valley or whatever that they have coming up. This, I think it's the same day as Elimination Chamber. That's the show that Mercedes is wrestling Kairi on.
Okada and Tanahashi on that show too.
Yeah, exactly. In the U.S., first time in the U.S. It's looking, unless he's just going to come over and work New Japan Strong all the time. It certainly looks like Jay White is on his way out of New Japan. Where I know you're not the biggest Jay White fan. Where do you think he would be the best place for him, and where do you actually think he might go?
I mean, I think he will run into an issue that a lot of the Japanese talent have run into when they come over. If he goes to WWE, is that people don't know who he is. Like, the hardcores know who he is, but you're going to have this battle of trying to explain why this guy is different, why this guy is special. And in the WWE landscape, I think what makes Jay White really good isn't what WWE really does, right?
Yes and no.
So maybe with Hunter, it'll be different. But traditionally speaking, like, a Jay White is a character, and as a wrestler doesn't really fit WWE style. That's not to say he can't pivot and make it work. AJ and Finn and Nakamura eventually found ways to make it work. That being said, I think he'd get lost in the shuffle in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know that going to AEW would automatically be a home run either. His character would transition much better for the fan base. The people there know him; they're familiar. A lot of his buddies, so to speak, are over there. So it would, I think, for coming in, it would be better for him to be in AEW. But I think it's really just a matter of what does he want? What does he want to do next? Is he more concerned about making money, which I would think is why he's leaving Japan, is he's going to get a big deal from one of these companies. Or does he want to go somewhere where he can be more like the character he's been for the last few years, have a little more of an edge that he's able to push on screen, and his interviews can be a little more of what he seems to be really good at.
Yeah, I think with AEW, because they have the relationship with New Japan, I think it's easier for them. And he's been on AEW TV already, so there's that
Yep.
too. But because of the relationship with New Japan, they should be able to. And he spent some time in Ring of Honor. Like, they have ways of being able to present him to fill people in on who Jay White is that WWE doesn't necessarily. However, with Hunter in charge, WWE will be, while they probably won't be able to find footage or show any footage, they should be able to at least have how they do photos out of Pro Wrestling Illustrated, and they're more willing to we've seen it with the unfortunate passings that we've had already this year. They're more willing to reach out and Cole especially his shouted out, he mentioned PWG on
Mm-hmm.
earlier this year, and like they're more willing now to acknowledge things outside of the WWE bubble to benefit to benefit their programming.
I just feel like what makes Jay White stand out is not what makes people stand out in WWE. And
I think he's a good enough talker where he'll be able to get by. I think he'll be just fine.
Maybe, but I don't think the larger than life presentation and the campiness that WWE likes to work into their matches is really what he's about. But I wouldn't blame the guy for getting one of those big checks and taking a shot. It's I feel like for a guy like Jay White, AEW is always an option if he's not on a deal. So take a shot. Swing for the fences in WWE, see what happens.
I will say, if I were him, I definitely would. If they're gonna send me to NXT, that's a no deal.
Yeah,
he should go straight to the main roster. There's a couple people have floated this idea, and I really like it. Is assuming Theory makes it out of the chamber, still U.S. champion. He wrestles Cena at WrestleMania. Cena beats him for the U.S. title maybe on night 1, and then either on night 2 or the Raw after Mania. You do a good old John Cena U.S. Open challenge, and Jay White is the one who answers the challenge and beats Cena for the title. I mean, that's a heck of a way to debut someone.
Right, and if you did it the night after Mania or the Raw after Mania, you're also going to deal with that hardcore fan base that when he walks out would have the reaction that might tell someone who has no idea who he is, oh, people know who this guy is. Let me pay a little attention. Because Nakamura especially, I feel like that was the big issue, is when they brought him in, it was only to the hardcores that NXT were excited about. And then when they brought him to the main roster, he had already been stained, if you will, with the WWE stink, and they never did anything major with him after that.
Right. And I think there's enough people, I think, in WWE. We talked about all his connections in AEW, but with Finn and Cody and AJ, and the Good Brothers, there's enough there that you could kind of tell similar stories that they would in AEW. I think either way, wherever he goes, I would bet on him to succeed. If he's given the proper TV time and stuff like that.
Right. Well, and the thing about going to WWE is you've already succeeded at that point. Once you get that check from WWE, it everything else is the cherry on top. I don't think Jay White would ever be the top guy or a top 3 guy in WWE, no matter what. just because of all the other people he's going to be competing against that have the history and they've been there for so long and fit more of the style. But he could go there and do, if AJ is wrapping up in the next couple of years, Jay White could be, an AJ Styles type who just, wherever you need him on the card, he's going to do it. He's going to do it well. I just don't happen to like the guy.
Yeah.
But he's really good in the ring.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not supposed to like him, Matt.
Right. But it's not like I don't like him and because he's a bad guy. It's because I really don't like the way he works. I don't like the things he does in the ring, but he's good at what he does, and you can't ignore that.
Right.
Kind of like Mr. Neck Tattoo.
There you go.
Like, I don't like anything about what he does in the ring, but I respect that other people like it.
Fair enough. We got a little bit of time. Let's just rapid fire. So let's make the announcement first, and then we'll do the. So starting March 3rd, which is a Friday, we'll be moving to Fridays. I will be starting a new job next week, and it's gonna change my schedule. It is not with the New World Order, contrary to what my camera might be telling you right now, but there we go. So yeah, I will, instead of having Wednesdays off, I will be having Fridays off, with the exception of my first week. Next week, I got to work Monday through Friday next week, but after that, I'll have Fridays off, and so we'll be doing Fridays. So no, we won't, unless something crazy happens, we got to do some sort of emergency reaction. We won't really have a any kind of elimination chamber follow-up. I believe our first episode on Friday will be the weekend of Revolutions. We'll be heavy into Revolution talk. So yeah, I'm excited to start this new adventure, and also moving to Fridays. Hell yeah. And we'll be we'll be able to talk about Dynamite more fresh, as opposed to.
And it just hurts that Friday SmackDown has been kind of the better WWE show for a while. But I mean, we're already 5 days late or 2 days early as it is. So
right, exactly.
Not a big deal. And it'll be really nice when, on the big weekends where we have a pay-per-view on Saturday, we'll be right there, and it won't be 3 days ahead of time. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it too. I'm glad we're going to be able to keep doing this.
Yeah, definitely. So with that in mind, let's just rapid fire real quick. Let's just go through this Elimination Chamber card and just real quick, just throw out who we think is going to win. Let's start with the Women's Chamber to decide who's going to challenge Bianca at WrestleMania. I got Asuka. Yeah,
it's the only one that makes sense on paper.
Yeah,
they could do Liv, but I don't think that.
No, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I think Asuka's the way to go. We've got Edge and Beth versus Finn and Rhea.
Finn and Rhea probably, right?
If they don't win, Finn's the one that has to get pinned.
Right. Which doesn't make sense.
You can't afford having Rhea. I think Rhea pins Beth. I think that's how this ends. So yeah.
So then they can get to their Hell in the Cell match with Edge and Finn at Mania. Rhea can go on and do her business.
Right. Did you see the Valentine's Day skit?
No. Where they interrupted the dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did see that with the bring me your finest chicken tenders or whatever. Yeah.
Bring me your most expensive bottle of champagne and your finest chicken tenders. No ketchup. He hates spice.
Great shit.
I love it.
The people, like the number of people that hate Dominic Mysterio, it's working so well.
Yeah,
so well.
They leaned into it. It works. Yeah.
And he's so hateable that it makes people who want to like Judgment Day go, well, I like the other guys, but I really hate Dominic, so I can't. Great job.
Yeah. And then we've got the men's chamber for the United States title. I think Theory's going to end up coming out still the champion. Kind of what we talked about before.
Well, and I think it makes the most sense for him too, because then you can use him at Mania, like you said, in a spot where, he's got a little more importance with having a title on the line. Seth obviously has other plans
He'll have
for
other
Mania,
plans.
and the other four, it's just meh.
A dark horse would be Montez, but that'd be like, I think Theory's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Brock and Bobby. I'm kind of surprised they're doing this at the Chamber and not at Mania.
Well, I mean, I think Lesnar's going to win because that Lesnar feuds have worked this way for a while. He gets beat up a little bit at the start and then comes back and wins.
Mm-hmm.
If they're doing it now and it means we get Lesnar and Gunther at Mania, fine by me.
Yeah, yeah.
And if that's not the way it goes and Lesnar isn't even involved in Mania, even better.
Yeah, this Mania is going to be like everything you ever wanted.
Well,
I mean, close
almost.
To like as good as it's going to get.
The problem is the tippy top match has got the guy I have no interest in ever watching. So they're going to give me everything I want until the very end, and then, well, I guess I'll just turn it off at that point.
Did it. And then finally, the main event: Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn for the WWE Undisputed Universal Heavyweight Championship of the World. Roman Reigns is winning.
Yeah, Roman, it's not a question.
Yeah.
We did this last week, and then the Guns won the tag titles. But I can't see them ending Roman's streak like this.
No.
It doesn't.
No. Yeah, so, I said it last week, and I'll repeat. Roman wins. Jay, on SmackDown last week, they had Heyman tell Jimmy that Roman said that the Usos are to stay home. That's the cover for Jimmy, who can't make it the trip to Canada. I think Jay still shows up, in defiance of the tribal chief, but ultimately turns
it's
on,
for the family.
Yeah. And then I think Owens comes out to aid his best friend, and we get the big hug in Montreal, and everyone goes nuts.
Which we can get into another time if you want, but I think that's a stupid idea. But whatever. That's probably where it's going to go.
Tears.
Sami Zayn, the brilliant babyface who found the cracks in the bloodline, is going to align himself with the man who has quite literally turned his back on him, like everywhere they've ever gone. But let's not keep that in mind.
Dom Toretto.
Okay.
They're family.
Sure. Whatever you say. No, I think it's much like the Rumble. What happens after the match is going to be the real main event. So,
mm-hmm. I think the match will be good, though. I think Roman respects Sami enough that they're gonna put on quite a good match before we get to the inevitable.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that it. We'll just have to see what happens. I guess. The way Roman's been built up and the way Sami's been presented for years, on paper, this should be an absolute.
Should be, but
demolishing. But
you could play the Roman underestimates Sami angle. Sami gets a couple lucky shots in, and a couple hope spots where you think he might be able to actually pull this off. And so,
right. I think I'm more interested in seeing how the crowd reacts.
The atmosphere is going to be nuts.
It has Punk in Chicago for Money in the Bank. I feel like that's the sort of energy you're going to get. It might even be even bigger, because Montreal's not a town that gets a ton of big events either.
Right.
So to have one of their, I mean, since Survivor Series 97, this might be the biggest show that's ever happened in Montreal.
Yeah, I'd have to.
So
No Way Out 2003. Come on.
all right, I think it's time to wrap this up.
All right, sounds good. Yeah. So again, no show next week. We'll be back on March 3rd, Friday, March 3rd, for a Revolution preview. Yeah, so just like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel here at musicandmoonsaults.com and on or on podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can follow me at Ibanez Chris on Twitter. You can follow the show at KM Wrestling Pod on Twitter. And I think that's it. So until next time, everyone, see ya.